There it is. Thank you for having me. I apologize.
No, you kidding? Thank you. Appreciate it. Get some water, take a deep breath. We're going to have some fun here.
Good. I'm
Very,
excited.
very exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
Start. I love that color.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. Well, let's welcome everyone to Mastermind with Neil Schwartz. And our special guest today is Eric Delgado. Eric, welcome to our organization. It's very, very exciting. You know, we've known each other for a number of years through the Mike Ferry system. And it's just really, this is the first time that I think we've been able to really sit down and share some ideas and learn about some of the things that you're doing.
Right.
And it's really interesting because you're very, very close to us. You're in an adjoining market. We don't really compete, but you're in an adjoining market in the San Fernando Valley, kind of the north end, if you will, of Los Angeles County. And you're really crushing it out there, both as before COVID, and post-COVID, right?
We look forward to that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you give us like the Reader's Digest version, just a little bit of information about you and your business and where you do business, and share, kind of start from there.
My name's Eric. We operate from a Keller Williams Market Center in Encino, California. Run a small unit. We sell about $100 million a year for the last handful of years. I've sold about 1,100 homes, just shy of it. We mostly focus on outbound sales, outbound prospecting. So we do a lot of buy owners, canceled expireds, and circle prospecting. The small unit of agents that I work with is 6 agents. We have a few that we've incorporated since COVID that are on trial, bases. That we're trying to see if it's going to be a mutual fit. They do about $50 million worth of business. The 6 people last year in 2019. I personally did about $50 million. We serve in the San Fernando Valley, some Santa Clarita, some Los Angeles, but that's kind of as far as we go. We don't go too much further than about 45 minutes from where our office is, because more than that, we can't really serve our clients at the level that they deserve to be served.
Right. It's kind of my theory of, to get bigger, you have to get smaller.
Yeah.
And the smaller you get, the bigger you get. Isn't that interesting?
Yep. The focus gets smaller, the bigger your life will become. For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So if I understand it, the 6 on your team really were 3 up until probably the last 3 or 4 months.
No, so it was 5 people last year. Okay. Then we incorporated 1 at the beginning of the year, and we've decided to go into business mutually, for a good while. But since then, we have 3 people that hang out in our Zoom, in our space, that they've onboarded to the trainings that I've actually, some of them that we put together, best practice for what we do. So we will know in the next month or so if those other people and us are going to be a good fit for each other. And if that's the case, then we will have literally added an additional 30% to our sales force during COVID.
Good. Excellent. Good for you. Good job. So let's go back a little bit to when you started in this business. You've been in how long?
Since 2007. So
2007. So right at the end, were you in it at the end of the market, or right as the recession hit?
Right as the recession hit. In fact, I jumped into real estate sales because the recession hit. I was actually in lending. I was working for a mortgage broker, and I wasn't even 18 at the time, but he taught me a lot, and it was a fun gig. But then the recession hit, and I had to either make a decision to go back to college. I wanted to be an accountant, by the way, or change my license from loans to real estate, which at the time, the license would permit you to do so.
Right. Okay. So you chose real estate.
Yeah, I did.
It's interesting. Absolutely. And you jumped right in and kind of took off, as I recall.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I early on learned the power of leverage. And, I was having a similar conversation recently with someone. as soon as I got into real estate sales, I had a budget for the following, I would say about 30 to 60 days in my bank account of living. And instead of actually having it go all the way through 60 days, I decided to hire an assistant. It reduced my life spending down to 30, but I decided to hire an assistant because I wanted nothing to do with anything but actual prospecting, lead follow-up, and signing contracts. So, I've since I got into business, I've never actually transaction coordinated a file, which is actually a fun fact, or uploaded a listing and so forth. I've always had people that are competent, high licensed and so forth to actually do so. So
let me ask you something, because was that the accountant in you that made that financial decision? Because that question comes up all the time. When should I get assistant? How should I pay for this? How is this going to happen? What if I'm not making enough money? Blah, blah, blah. So tell me your thought process there.
The thought process for me was if I have to learn paperwork, if I have to stop my momentum and learn how to upload MLS stuff and how to, move back and forth on all things real estate that's not the prospecting and signing contract aspect of it, I was going to be miserable. And I know that if I'm miserable, the wheel doesn't turn. And so I made a choice to go all in and just test my luck. I mean, the worst thing that would have happened at that point is I wouldn't have put deals into escrow, and I wouldn't have closed transactions, and I would have had to go back to school. The good thing is at the time I didn't have too much of an overhead, and I think that's important to know because I had a car, I had to feed myself, but the overhead wasn't as what it is now. I wouldn't make that decision now with a daughter and homes and cars and everything that has to be paid. So
sure.
You have to make a decision. And at that point, I'm like, it's kind of, you burn the ships kind of. And I've actually had that burn the ships mentality quite a bit, and it served me a lot of times. It's bitten me in the butt sometimes, but now we're here.
Well, that's good. Excellent. Very, very good. So as you start growing the business and you start doing things, you met Mike Ferry pretty early on, correct?
I didn't.
Oh,
I actually met Mike Ferry in 2014.
So 7 years later. Okay.
7 years later. I actually wish I would have met Mike in 2007. I think we would be singing a different tune. Sincerely.
You're singing a pretty good tune to be anyway.
Thank you. You're very kind. I got involved with coaching with another company in 2010 at the end of it, mostly for leadership. And I did that through 2014. And to be frank with you, I never really cared too much to look into Mike Ferry until 2014. A really good friend of mine pretty much conned me into going to a superstar retreat by basically saying, I put a Vegas trip together for us. We should go. I got the rooms and I got, the service, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And we had already had, little trips before. So I'm like, you know what, let's do this. Oh, by the way, last minute, bring a couple suits. I want to show you something. He wanted to repay me because I had actually brought him to another event that he was very grateful for. And we laugh about it today. And he's actually in the San Fernando Valley. His name is Angel Garcia. So
I know Angel, of course.
We're good friends to this day. We actually had a dinner last night. Yeah. And so I had brought him to a family reunion event for KW. And, he soaked in everything he needed to soak in, but he never came on board to KW. So he felt like he wanted to return the favor. There's a funny story that he brings up all the time if you ever talk to him. Before Mike Ferry, I was never into I was always a cold caller, but I was never into the expired or canceled business or buy owner. We would just do just listed stuff. And since it was a down market, we did a lot of short sales. My telemarketers or ISAs, you would call them. At the time, they were getting me and my partner short sale listings. And, we would find a win-win between the banks and the offers we would make and so forth. It was a good run. But when I went to Mike Ferry, it was the first time I was open to expireds and canceleds. And he actually was in that space. And then after about a year or so, when we went deep and all in, he's not in the space anymore. So, we kind of drove him out of the space.
All right, good stuff. So COVID comes upon. Is it you're cooking, you're taking listings, you're making sales, cool things are happening. You're training your team. By the way, before I go into that, do you actually role play every day?
Now we're starting to do a little more of it.
Uh-huh.
The team does with our director of sales, which is like the team manager. I role play the listing presentation. That
Okay.
I do, and the pre-qualification script. That I don't deviate from. I do that with my coach for sure every week, and then I do it actually twice a week because I have them 2 times a week. But that's the main focus of my role playing is the pre-qualification script and the listing presentation. And I think that a lot of people they role play the outbound, either expired, just listed, or sphere script. I think that if people role play the actual pre-qualification script and actual listing presentation script, you'll be more confident, and you will feel a lot more seamless and fluid with your conversations, come out more crisp. And I think that that's what people want to hear when you first speak to them, whether it's a referral, whether it's someone that's procured at an open house or outbound cold call. People want to know that they're working with someone who makes them feel at ease and makes them warm and fuzzy. And so that does it to me, role playing the listing presentation, and more importantly, even more than the presentation, the pre-qualification.
Great advice. Absolutely. Okay. So, and then prospect, do you prospect, or is your job really to go present?
I prospect.
Okay.
I prospect every day.
Okay.
We have a rule that my coach and I, my great coach, Steve Powers, we implemented a while ago. And the long and short of it is nothing happens until I set up a qualified listing presentation for the day. And so I've been doing that for quite some time, and sometimes it's easier to come by and sometimes it's harder. And so, yeah, my job is to prospect, lead follow-up, and sign contracts.
Yeah, we have a saying in our company: no appointment, no money.
An appointment a day makes all the problems go away.
That for sure. Okay, so you're doing all the things that need to be done. January and February are pumping along. Everything's cool. All of a sudden, boom. Middle of March, COVID hits. They want to shut us all down, et cetera, et cetera. Where was Eric's head right then?
Dealing with a lot of current listings, current escrows. For about a handful of days, we had to call our clients and just put them at ease with what we could say to them. Many of the conversations was just to hear them out and to give them their options. We can either stay on market, or we can either stay in the escrow that we were currently in, or we can cancel. And either way was fine, but we would give them the pros and cons. And so firefighting was a huge portion of it, because for the first week or two, it was extremely uncertain. No one knew how big this was going to get, how we were going to get impacted. So once we got through that and we started to see some sort of light with being virtual, with working from home as an agent, as a sales agent, with the staff, I employ 5 staff, with them working from home, figuring out best practice, and then actually optimizing it. In fact, we actually had the staff on Zoom as well, like we did the Salesforce. And to be frank with you, you can ask them, they started to feel we're working harder now during COVID on Zoom because you're watching us and we're sharing the screen than what we were before. And so, believe it or not, efficiency went up, but it was necessary for efficiencies to go up because I needed them to do more than they were doing before. Before, if the job was to, do a certain facet of the transaction, right? If it was all separated, there was no transactions, or very little of them. So calling the database and really pouring onto them, staying in touch with them, and really bringing value to the people that we already serve was really important. And it took an army. And so I'm fortunate to be working with people who have as high of a degree of importance on client experience, because that's the biggest thing for us. We were able to create a great client experience protocol and executed. Until this day now, it's what we actually are implementing in terms of touches to make sure our clients get what they deserve.
So what I think I'm hearing you're saying is that you gave good, maybe even great customer service before, but that because of the virtual relationship that you had during the COVID, you had to ratchet it up 2, 3, 4 times.
Correct.
And you're working to maintain that today.
So the thing, absolutely. And so let me just add to that.
Interesting.
Before COVID, I'm running on all cylinders. The team is running on cylinders. The sales force is. I'm out of the office for most of the day after the morning, and so it's not as easy to for the staff to know how they're winning or when they're winning. You know, when you're running fast, it's another task or job on your plate, and so it was just something that I guess maybe it was a little bit of an oversight, or we just didn't get to. We would firefight, like we would deal with fires after the fact, and so having a virtual situation made us really airtight our systems and make it extremely clear for the staff to know how they win in the organization and how to get the feedback from the client so that we can give them what they want, not what we think that they should have. So it increased.
Actually, we found exactly the same thing. We also found, maybe you did too, is that if you are great at a virtual listing presentation, you're spectacular in person. Did you find that?
Yeah, that was another thing. So the first topic was for the staff, but now we're talking with the sales force, and so presenting on a Zoom presentation, especially when the clients don't necessarily want to show their face, it's not easy. You know, you really have to get good at speaking, at listening, at knowing how to respond to their needs. Oh yeah, for sure. It was fun. We did quite a bit of that too, and not everybody picked it up in our unit as quick as I wanted them to, but we did the best that we could with what we had at the moment.
That's great. Good for you. Congratulations. Good. Okay, so now we're on the other side. We're through COVID, and now we're post-COVID. So you've mentioned a couple of things that in terms of quality service, exceptional client experience. I wrote that down. How do you see this going forward for the balance of the year?
We are right now. I'm just going to tell you what my sales force and I are doing. We are doing 14/6. If you have a pen, write that down. What we're doing is, and I know that it's hard to keep this up as much as possible, but we're trying to work 14-hour days and 6 days a week to make up for some of the lost business that we had, and then to serve everybody that needs our service. We're getting ready to have a small window of, I would say, about 60 to 75 days of a lot of transactions, folks wanting to sell, folks wanting to buy. And so we're preparing for having an amazing run from here through September 15th, because after September 15th, we're prepared for things to get quiet. It's not going to be like a normal summer. And so, whereas people would take our agents, myself, we would take vacations, maybe like a weekend staycation or the beach or this and that and the other, that's going to wait, because I don't really know what's going to happen on the other side of September 15, maybe October 1st. And we have a lot of making up to do. And so just hunkering down and the 14/6 is what we're going to be doing for a little while. So
I love that, 14/6. Good for you. Absolutely. You're going to leave your competition in the dust. I suspect you probably left them a little bit in the dust anyway during COVID.
I don't. We had the good fortune of retaining a lot of contracts, but the markets, it's interesting. So our price point right now, my team's average price point is about $660. I'm at about $1 million. Between about $1 million, $1.3 million, which a lot of my personal listings, are coming in at. The market's not as active as it was before, and it's starting to turn the wheel day by day. But some of our clients are not necessarily prepared to sell for what the perceived current fair market value is, and that's okay. All we can do is communicate the information to the sellers and then let them make the decisions. And so what I'm trying to say to you is, yeah, we're gonna work longer and harder because I suspect the percentage of listings taken to listings closed for our unit, just because of all things the world, will go down. How much, we shall see, but my bills, my goals, my family, my stuff, my team's goals, my staff's goals, I mean, those can't wait. So all I could do as leading the ship is to work as hard and explain to them that I foresee a shift in percentage of listings taken to listings sold. And so I think overall, if anyone's watching the market, they're preparing for that as well.
Well, clearly, we do the stats all the time. Clearly, and you're in basically the same market that we are. CRMLS, May over May, 19 over 20. There was 10,000 less listings taken in May 19 versus May 20. 10,000 less listings. So right to your point. So what's happening is the pie, if you will, the pie is shrinking. And the number of people eating on the pie, there are 100,000 more real estate agents in the nation today than there were in 2007 at the peak before the recession. Isn't that wild?
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of people that aren't going to be eating from the pie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
So go ahead.
I would say, so, and the folks that are actually working and taking listings, it's just, especially on the higher end of price points, we're going to have to work harder, more communication with the clients. You're going to have to speak to them more personally, show more property, keep them updated more because they're not flying off the shelf. So yeah, that's all.
So Eric, I say this all the time. I say that great agents during markets like this get better, and they get better because their skills get better, right? So what is it that you're going to do, you, Eric, to sharpen your skills, polish your skills over the next few months?
I would say, I would say a couple things. I think that we can all be better at versatility. I'm gonna get better at being versatile. And I'm gonna get better at communicating with my clients. I think those two things are gonna serve the greater purpose. Sure, we can work on our scripts to reach out to folks. Sure, we can work on our scripts to listing present, but that's part of your job. You should be doing that anyway. I mean, a golfer hits 5,000 golf balls a day, to then, I think the number 24th golfer makes like $2 million a year, and they work that hard on their craft. I mean, that goes without saying. If you're not actively working about an hour to 2 hours a day to sharpen yourself on presenting or speaking to people, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's like as if you're going to compete at a NBA level, yet you're practicing at a high school or college basketball level. You're going to get circles run around you by folks that are actually committing to their job, which is improving their skills to make things easier when they speak to the consumer.
Got it. Very good stuff. So Tess had a question here on the chat. She said, what do you do with the client to stay connected while they're making a decision? They're waiting on the sidelines. How do you touch them, stay connected to them?
So when I speak to someone that may need to do something in the near future, you obviously can identify if they're going to actually be doing something now within the next 30 or so days or later. If they're going to do something now, you want to stay sticky, get an email, drop them a pre-listing packet on their email, maybe even call them to confirm they may or may not have got it. Keep them abreast as to what the market's doing. I would minimum, if someone's saying I'm going to do something in 30 days, I would minimum contact them either a phone, a text, or an email twice a week from here to there. And if in 30 days they don't do anything, at that point, I would just put them on a drip system. We use Road Geeks. I would put them on a drip system for them to get your stuff about once a month, twice a month on the automated stuff, so that when they're ready, they can raise their hand and you just go back to them. But if it's past 30 days, I would respectfully focus your efforts on folks that need you today.
Okay, good. So in the first, so if it's a 30-day lead and you're touching them by email, by text, by phone calls, so give me an example of what that might sound like.
The first thing would be a pre-list packet. If I speak to you this morning, you're going to get it within a few hours. I'll call you by the end of the day. And that's the biggest thing. People just don't call after they do it. Call them at the end of the day when you're done, whether that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And Neil, you were kind enough to speak to me this morning. I'm so excited about the opportunity to help you list and sell your home in 30 days. I wanted to confirm that you got my email. Oh, no, I didn't. When did you send it? I sent it at 10:30 at 123abc@gmail.com. Okay, no, I didn't get it. Thank you for letting me know that. I must have gone spam. Would you be kind enough to check? Great, I'll check later. Can I call you tomorrow to confirm you received it? Yes. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it takes a couple hours to do something like this. Call them back. Check in with them. And then if they didn't answer, when you call them in the evening, I would send them a text. Good evening, Neil, do you have a quick second to chat? Respectfully, Eric. And sometimes they might not even know who you are, and they'll ignore it. Then you get to call them again. And then finally you make a connection. And then, seriously, later on, a couple of days later, and then eventually you call them, I'm so excited, look forward to seeing you. You set up an appointment to meet at their leisure in 30 days. So excited to meet you. Let's just say 30 days from today, call it July 16th. But I'm gonna call you every time I list, I penned, I close a home in your area or that fits your criteria, so that I could stay sticky and that you know I'm doing business. Gosh, I'm so excited, Neil. I just sold another one down the street like yours. You know, the Hendersons were able to get 2 contracts within the first 7 days. We're extremely excited. I want to let you know that since then, we might have some folks that may be interested in your property. I look forward to speaking to you more about this when we meet July 16th. Whatever.
Got it.
I'm going to just stay sticky.
Got it. Absolutely. Great thought. Good stuff. Questions for Eric. Both we're live on Facebook. I think we're live on YouTube, and we're of course live right here. So if you've got a question, unmute yourself and ask it, or raise your hand, or put it in the chat box, please.
So Eric, question came in, was what does your daily schedule look like, especially now that you're doing a 14-hour day, 6 days a week?
So that you know, so I'm actually going on presentations daily. So the 14-hour days, you know, the prospecting of 14-hour comes down a little bit, but my objective is to get to the office as early as I can. Now that we're able to go to the office, prep for me to get on the phones. I'm on the phones for about 4 hours in the morning. And then the rest of the day is filled in with calling people back on the offers they made, clients and brokers, negotiating contracts, lunch, workout, suit and boot, and go to 2 appointments per day to meet clients. If I don't have appointments per day to meet clients, then I put some gym clothes on and I start finding people that need my services for the rest of the evening, usually from about 4 to 8 o'clock, plus or minus.
Got it. That's great. Fantastic. And you do that 6 days a week?
I do that 5 days a week.
5 days a week.
Yeah. So Sundays, I work Sunday. I don't work Saturday. So Sunday, you'll find me at the office, and then I'll be there until about after I'm done. When I'm going to take a late lunch, about 2 or 3 o'clock, I'm pretty much done. And if I have some people to call back, I do jump back on in the evening to call those folks back to make sure that I stay sticky. Because mind you, when you're reaching out to people, they're at work. They're shopping, they're driving, they're doing everything under the sun. So I'm not going to take it personal if they don't remember who I was in the evening, right? So in the evening, I'm going to call back and make sure that you got the correspondence that I sent. And then say hello again to make sure that you remember Eric Delgado.
I love it. Good job. So Tess asked about social media. So Social media, big buzzword. You using it? You getting? Is it generating any business for you? How does that work in your world?
We just started to use social media, and the only way we do it is by posting our listings so that we can get a little more of a buzz and folks inquiring about them before they list. That's to be frank with you, the long and short of it. We do that on Facebook. My staff does it on Facebook and Instagram. But I can't say that it's dividend us listing opportunities. Maybe a few here and there prospective buyers for our inventory. But to be frank with you, nothing worth me saying it's something that works for us. It just, some people master it and they're good at it. They're personable. People like them. I don't know. Maybe I'm not as personable or likable as other folks are. So it hasn't really dividended me.
Well, you haven't been using it all that long. So there's a learning curve here too.
That's probably it.
There's a saturation and learning curve. So I wanted to ask you, we had kind of alluded to it earlier. Are you doing all your listing presentations in person? Are you doing some virtually? How's that working?
At this point, we're doing about 80% of them in person, 20% Zoom. So I work with a lot of out-of-state people anyway. So that prior to COVID, during COVID, and I imagine after COVID, we work with a lot of out-of-state people. So I'm very comfortable with doing listing presentations over the phone. And now that we have Zoom, so we just do them via Zoom. But it's down to about 20%. Prior to COVID, it was like 15% absentee owners, and that's probably what I think it's going to get down to over the course of the next 90 days.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Other questions for Eric right now, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Did he say that he has a team? How many is on the team?
Eric?
Yeah, there's
six.
So there's 6 salespeople on the team.
So 6 5
6 agents. Yeah,
Oh.
6 agents. There's 5 staff, and then myself. And those people.
Your team. Your team. Just for clarification, your team represents about 50% of your business. They did about 50 million, and you personally represent about 50 million.
That's correct.
For a total of about $100 million. So $100 million, the way you calculate, is how much GCI?
It was just shy of 2.1 last year.
Got it. So
Thank you.
the 6 people make gross $1 million, and he grosses $1 million. I like that. Okay, good. All right, good question. All right, other questions for Eric?
How do you stay motivated and how do you have the energy just to keep prospecting after the morning?
So, I think that motivation is, so this is a mental fitness game. If you don't understand that it's a mental fitness game, you're missing the boat. And so what you have to ask yourself is, and this is how it was described to me a long time ago, and it's stuck. It's what you put in your mind, which is called the programming, which affects how you think, which affects how you feel, then affects what your actions are, and it completely affects your results. So I turn around the question and ask you, what are you putting in your programming on a daily basis so that you can keep moving forward? I mean, the social media, you're going to find stuff on social media that's usually going to be negative, because whether it's something good or bad, if it's good, you're usually comparing your insides to other people's outsides. And if it's bad, then it's just that much more depressing, right? And so there's already enough negativity, like putting on your like cup on a daily basis. You got to purge it out with positive stuff. So I've personally read over, it's like almost, I think 600 books over the course of, since I was 15. I've always been a motivation or autobiography junkie. Like if anything I can get my hands on, I'm on it and I'm reading. So right now I read at minimum 1 book a week, sometimes 2, every week. There's no world where I would be able to get up excited, ready to grab the bull by the horns every morning if I didn't have a purpose to do it. And I think that once you follow just winning the day, the money follows, right? So just look to win the day, but know that you're either putting stuff in your mind that's going to serve you or you're not. And a lot of people don't spend the hour to 3 hours on a daily basis at the top of the morning or day and at the bottom of the day doing so. You're going to have to do it during these 2 periods, because during the rest of the time, you're working, you're making money, you're hunting buffalo. But in order for you to stay sharp and keen, you got to put stuff in your head, positive stuff.
That's great.
Cool.
Good-
Cool. Thank
good
you.
stuff.
Appreciate that. That was good.
Good question, Frank. Thank you. All right. Other questions for Eric this morning? This afternoon.
Sorry, one last question.
Take it away, Tess.
Why not work Saturday as opposed to Sunday? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. Religious reason. So, my religion, we hold the Sabbath, or, from 6 to 6. So for me, I choose to take that day for the most part off. I do here and there meet some people on Saturday, but I don't prospect Saturdays. And then I just found that working on Sundays serves me better. There's far less people looking to work with people to serve on a Sunday there is on a Saturday, just because most people take the Sunday off, and that's okay. But Sunday's the first day of the week for me, and it gets me prepped, sharp, keen. So Monday, I'm not starting sluggish. I'm not starting trying to get the wheels turning, because the wheels turned the day before, and so
Great thought.
It allows for a powerful week for me, and it's been like that for a long time. So
It's a great thought. Very, very cool. Good. All right. So any other questions we have for Eric today? So Eric, give me 1 or 2 thoughts that we can leave the group with to help them really finish crushing it, if you will, between now and the 15th of September. Your words. Okay.
I would not get overwhelmed with the 14-6. That's a little extreme, especially if you're not used to that.
Great.
But
advice.
create boundaries for yourself of commitments, no matter what, chop your arm off, that you're going to do. And I'm going to give you an example of what I think you should start with. I think you should start with the minimum of a 1, for me, before COVID, is 1, 3, 30. Let me share with you what that is. Minimum of 1 qualified listing presentation per day. For me, for you, it might be a buyer, it might be a seller, whatever you choose it to be, someone to serve on a real estate transaction. 3, so 1 person, minimum a day, appointment set. And 3, no less than 3 hours of prospecting, looking for said people per day. And 30, no less than 30 people to speak to that day. You do those 3 things, after you're done with that, the 1, 3, and 30, for me, with my experience in speaking to people, I can get away with 30. Some folks might need 50 to get to that 1 person to find to serve, and that's okay. If you're newer in the business, it'll be 60, 70, 80. That's okay. You have to ask yourself, what else do you have to do? And so if you do those things, the 1, for me, 3, 30, you're going to be fine. Super fine.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. Absolutely fantastic. Everyone unmute yourselves, please. Unmute yourselves. And let's give Eric a big hand. Woo! All right. Good job.
Good job. Thank you. Eric.
Awesome.
Job.
Awesome,
Thank
Eric.
you.
Good, that was good.
Thank you for your time,
Appreciate it.
your effort.
Powerful.
Very, very powerful.